So, on Saturday, Joe Biden won in South Carolina. His firewall state, it paid off for him, and he won big. And it really pleased a lot of the establishment media to see him win. It if you've noticed in the political area of Twitter, of even Instagram and everything, you're seeing the Biden bounce back and all this stuff trending. It was really good for Biden, and I can't take anything away from his victory, and I wouldn't. And the thing is most of us in politics, we knew Biden was going to win a double-digit victory, and the reason why is because he has been. This has been his treasure trove, and he has been just filling that vault full of his resources since before New Hampshire, really. If you remember when they announced who won New Hampshire and the fact that Biden lost pretty badly, he he did his conference, his little address from South Carolina. Like he'd skipped Nevada, went straight to South Carolina. This was like his firewall, and it paid off on Saturday, which is kind of important to note because the thing that he hasn't been doing is he just hasn't been campaigning anywhere else. At least very little. So he had said that for sure he was going to win Arkansas. Arkansas had actually tweeted and said he's going to have to come here and earn it. Places like California, which Bernie is winning massively. Bernie Sanders has 23 offices in California. Joe Biden has one. And when the media tried to visit that office, there was a padlock on the door with like some posts that hadn't been delivered. Um, Biden has barely been in Texas. He's barely been in New Hampshire. Or no, excuse me, not New Hampshire. Barely been um, in Massachusetts, Minnesota. All these places that he needs to win. We have 14 states coming up in under 48 hours, with a lot more delegates than the 54 that were up for grabs on Saturday. And people like Mike Bloomberg have put over $30 million into ads. Bernie Sanders is in the millions. I'm not exactly sure the number. Biden has put like six digits into ads for Super Tuesday. It has not been good. Now, since he's won on Saturday, yeah, he's been carpet bombing ads everywhere. But is it enough time? I don't know. I don't think so. I maybe you can just cut in, but there's a lot of people who I think if you're paying attention and you're into politics and you've been following this along with this, then you have already kind of chosen who you're going to go with. If you're a last minute voter, you probably are just going to start seeing these Biden ads drop now or tomorrow. There's a slim chance you won't see it. I mean, I know people who never saw a commercial for The Mandalorian. There are ads everywhere. uh, but Biden wasn't the only one who put a whole lot in to South Carolina. The other one who had really put all of his resources into South Carolina was Tom Steyer. And to be fair, I don't know why this was a strategy for either one of them. I think going into Super Tuesday, you should have worried about the other 14 states. Places like Texas are going to determine a lot. If Bernie comes out and wins Texas, it's going to be really, really good for Bernie. Could be the nomination right there. It's hard to say right now, but potentially could be. But if Tom Steyer and Biden had focused on these other 14 states, then it wouldn't be as much of this being their Hail Mary, so to speak, because there's so much more to go. This is the fourth state. There's still 46 more states, and they put everything in South Carolina. Tom Steyer not only put millions into it, but he also got on stage and did the worst dance I've ever seen. By the way, if you're Tom Steyer and you want voters to vote for you, do not go on stage and dance like a lunatic. Like the widest old guy I've ever seen dance. It really was his moment, his Pokemon go to the polls moment, and boom, he was done. So even though when I was doing a show Saturday, people were asking me who's going to drop out, and I said no one's going to drop out until probably Tuesday night or Wednesday. I was proven wrong by Tom Steyer, who the next day decided he was going to drop out. Um, and it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. It still doesn't make a lot of sense to me why Tom Steyer dropped out. Look, Tom Steyer has 0 delegates, and he was not going to do well. But it's not like there was someone controlling him. He's got a lot of money. He's the one calling the shots. There's no donors who are telling him, "Hey, you're splitting the party. You gotta leave." I don't know. I really don't know why. And Tom Steyer is a very interesting guy. I wouldn't say that he is like a Bernie Sanders light because I don't know what his thoughts on corruption and things like that are. His real thoughts, you know. But I don't see him doing this to help someone like Biden or Bloomberg or well, that's it. Like the only one I could see him doing this is to help Bernie maybe. But that's only because he agrees with him so often. But so before I was done, eating crow and being wrong, the other one to drop out was Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg dropped out about 3 hours ago from me making this video. And that was truly shocking. Because, look, as much as I don't believe he won Iowa, on paper, Pete Buttigieg won Iowa. Joe Biden, his impressive win in South Carolina catapulted him to number 2. But Pete Buttigieg is still number 3. Why he dropped out, I'm not exactly sure. He had far more probability to go on and do better than Amy Klobuchar or Elizabeth Warren, on arguably even Mike Bloomberg to an extent. I mean, I know that there's going to be an argument to say no, Bloomberg will do better, and that argument's probably true, but Buttigieg could still kept fighting and not had to fall on the sword so quickly. So why he did, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, he was number 3, with 26 delegates. Yes, Bernie Sanders up there 46 or 56. Biden is now at 45. Buttigieg was going to start to slip. And my only thing, there's only 2 things that I think may have happened. Number 1, he got reports back on, your pre-polling and things like that. And he saw that he was going to get embarrassed on Super Tuesday and didn't want to get embarrassed. That's one of my thoughts. The other one is there was a deal made in a smoke-filled back room after it was confirmed that Biden's campaign had called Elizabeth Warren, Klobuchar, Steyer, and Buttigieg. Maybe there's some wheeling and dealing going. Maybe this was politics. There's been the other argument that yes, he knew he was just gonna eat complete dog shit on Super Tuesday, but wants to run in 2024 and was like, okay, I got to avoid embarrassment. So I'm going to pull out now so that in 2024 when he runs, people aren't going to say, "Well, God, you sucked. Why should you run again? You did horrible in 2020." Why do we think, I don't know. It's hard to say. Is he, actively working with Biden? Maybe. And I say that because at his farewell speech or whatever, he seemed to attack Bernie in nuances. He seemed to go after the more progressive candidates by saying we can't be lost by ideology. We have to stick with what works and what's feasible. And those are the same attacks he's kind of been using on Bernie this entire time. And I wouldn't really be surprised to see Biden and Buttigieg team up. Maybe vice president. I don't know. I'm torn on that one, but potentially Secretary of State. Something was promised to Buttigieg. I'm almost fairly certain of it. Or, he had those 40 billionaire donors, and maybe they said, "Hey, look, Biden won big, and we can see the writing on the wall. You're not going to do well on Super Tuesday. You need to get out. We gave you a chance. Now our money's on Biden. It's a two-person race, and you're only going to make things worse." And that could be the case. Now, moving forward, as a Bernie supporter, this does not hurt us. At least it doesn't seem to. You can definitely make the case either way. But when we're talking about Tom Steyer and Pete Buttigieg, the argument for why they would drop out is because they weren't polling well. And because when it comes to national polls, um, Pete Buttigieg is doing between a 4% and a 10%. 10% being incredibly genuous to him. Tom Steyer is between 3 to 7. And there again, I don't know. I mean, I think you're being completely generous to him at 7. So, with those two stepping out right before Super Tuesday, the establishment has been saying, at least tonight, well, you're now going to see a bunch of Pete voters go to Biden. Well, are they though? Because that's not how voters vote. And in fact, I've seen different polls that showed that a lot of Pete voters, their second choice was Bernie. Others saying it was Biden. Either way, we're talking about maybe a 4% bump for Biden. And look, in a close race, let's say it gets close in Texas. Yeah, I'm gonna be frustrated if Bernie loses by, you know, 3 to 5%. I'm gonna, and say, God damn it, why didn't Elizabeth drop out? This would have helped. Um, but I really don't think that that's gonna be the case. I don't think that. I don't really think this hurts Bernie at all. And Steyer at that same turn, I don't think it makes a lick of difference. I really don't. In fact, if anything, I think it helps Bernie. Uh, because there again, Tom Steyer, his base was kind of like a Bernie Sanders base, and I mean that because a lot of the things he said, he agreed with Bernie. A lot of his voters could see that happening. Now, why I don't see it happening with Buttigieg is because he never really agreed with Biden. Buttigieg was fighting both sides of it. And remember, people who chose Biden, their number two choice was Bernie. So voters vote in very weird ways. And since we've already seen Buttigieg do his like goodbye speech, he didn't endorse Biden. He didn't endorse anybody. So if this was a play to make a bigger move, if this was, consolidating power, so to speak, you would have heard him endorse Biden to give him that boost for Super Tuesday, and he just didn't do it. So I think it's fair to say that Buttigieg was just going to tank really bad on Tuesday. Um, we may have seen the swan song of Biden because there's just not enough time for him to get resources, boots on ground, ads up, and name recognition even bigger and further, and to really spread his message to those 14 states that are going to happen in less than 48 hours. And we could see a big rise in Bloomberg. I hate to say it. Um, if I'm going to predict anything, it's that Bernie Sanders has a great Super Tuesday. And number two could probably be Bloomberg. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong on that. I hope it's Bernie by. Well, I mean, look, if I'm hoping, hope Bernie wins by 90%, and the rest get 10. But my thought process is it's number two is either going to be Bloomberg or Biden, and I'm really starting to think it's going to be Bloomberg just because of how little Biden has done to campaign. Anyway, I'm really curious what you guys think about what's going on right now. If you're a Mayor Pete fan or a Tom Tom Steyer fan. Sorry, I feel bad for you. It sucks, man. It is really bad when your candidate drops out. You do feel like a kick to the ego, a kick to your faith. It's kind of gone. And I'm curious if you are a supporter of Mayor Pete or Tom, who are you going to vote for? Who are you looking for? Who follows your ideology? Who seems, in your mind, electable? Um, I definitely would love to hear that, and I'll try to change your mind. But no, seriously, just curious your thoughts about the thing and your thoughts on Super Tuesday. How you think that's going to play out? It's going to be very, very interesting. Um, I do think Bernie's going to have a pretty big victory. I hope. But it'll be really, really interesting, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. Anyway, probably will not be doing a show tomorrow unless something major happens, so that I can do a show breaking down Super Tuesday. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a great evening.